everyone. We've got the whole crew here. Welcome back to Majority Rules. We took off last week, but we're back and better than ever, and everybody's here. This is season 1, episode 23. This is a podcast about Mizzou Athletics Majority, which is Olympic sports athletes. And this should be, softball result that just ended aside, a really happy episode because good things are happening. So I'm your host, Karen Steger. I am the softball, gymnastics, and co-swim beat writer and Olympic sports manager at Rock and Nation. When we go around and do our intros, please say your name, what you cover, and since Mizzou just sent out a text to switch to remote operations for winter weather tomorrow, I would like you to give me a prediction of how much snow you think we're going to get. And surprise, I didn't tell you this pre-show. Whoever's the closest, I'll buy you a Frosty from Wendy's. So you just would have to come to my office and then I'll walk you over there and buy you a Frosty. Okay, we're starting with Quentin. Quentin. We're starting with Quentin. No, we're not. We're starting with Rory.
I'm sorry. It's the way. It's totally frozen. Hi, guys. I'm Rory Redstone. I'm the golf, tennis, and baseball beat writer of various amount of Olympic sports for you guys. And I'm going to have to go with, I bet we only get 3 inches of snow.
I need to write this down so I can. Okay, Rory, 3. Okay. Quentin, are you there now?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell just happened to my Wi-Fi. That was really weird. I missed the last 37 seconds of whatever just happened. Hopefully I didn't stop on a
me
funny
going,
pace.
Quentin.
Darn. Oh well. Well, my name is Quentin Corcuel. I am now, I guess, just the men's basketball or one of the men's basketball beat writers here at Rock and Nation. And I think Columbia, Missouri is going to get 4.5 inches of snow tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. You're still here because you also kind of cover softball, not for us.
Yes.
And because you pitch in on women's basketballs from time
Yes,
to time.
I'm like Iowa. Iowa used to be in 2 conferences at the same time way back when. Which
Yes.
I didn't know you could do that until I found out about it. Maybe one team should try that nowadays. I don't think it's legal
According to
anymore.
people in Missouri, and we're not sure you're not supposed to do that either. So,
Right.
oh well.
We moved.
Abigail, to you.
Hi, my name's Abigail, and I'm the cross country and track and field beat reporter. And I'm with Rory. I was going to say 3, but now that there's a Frosty on the line, I'll change it up. So I'll go 2.5. I'm from Iowa. You never get as much snow as you expect to.
Okay. Thank you. Matthew, what about you?
Oh, all right. Well, I was going to game the system and go 2.75, but Abigail kind of ruined that strategy. But anyways, my name is Matthew Gustafson. I'm the volleyball, wrestling, and co-baseball beat writer at Rock M Nation. And it's funny, Quentin and I actually, true story, both had Frosties today at Wendy's. Yeah. So anyways, let's see, we got 3 inches, we got 4.5. So I am going 2.5. I think Quentin did 4.5. So I am going to go 3.75.
Dude, is that even measured on the weather app?
I think it is. I feel like it is.
I'll have to ask my mom. She'll know.
I know that this man over here is probably going to ruin my strategy now too, but it is.
You can get there on a ruler. It's possible.
Well, depending upon where you are in Columbia, it could be different too.
That is true.
So we'll figure it out. Okay, Dylan, to you.
Rounding this off, my name is Dylan Heinrich. I am the soccer and women's basketball beat writer, and I will occasionally help with softball as need be for Rock M's. So I'm going to go the opposite approach. As Q knows, I'm obviously not superstitious at all, but I'm going to try and game the system here. I'm going to say we get 5.5 inches in hopes that we get a lot less, because there's a men's basketball game tomorrow that I have to be at, and I'd rather get as little snow as possible to drive in. So that is my prediction, 5.5. That will totally come true.
He knocked on wood if you couldn't hear.
Oh, sorry.
And my prediction doesn't really matter because I could just buy myself a Frosty whenever. Well, and before I wanted just the thread enough that they were going to switch to remote operation so I could work from home. But then, of course, I don't want it to be some like huge amount of snow because I have the gymnastics thing on Friday. And damn it, if I get held back from attending that again, I'm going to have some words for a lot of people. So I'm going to say between my computer said 5 to 7, my phone said like 3 to 5. I'm going to just go with 5. And then it'll get warm enough that I'll still make it to gymnastics on Friday. Cross your fingers. So thank you guys. So since we're going to try to keep this show shorter, let's move right into in-season sports updates. We have a lot. Let's start with women's basketball because, oh my God, the Tigers won again. Craziness. So what do we have to say about Mizzou beating A&M by 10 points on Super Bowl Sunday?
Going back, we didn't have a show this past week, but the storyline around Mizzou women's basketball they've been playing a lot better. Like, you can see it in the way that they're performing game after game, but it's when you have a 3-game stint against Texas, Tennessee, LSU, those wins don't really come. I mean, you're losing by either double digits, like 11, or you're losing by 5. You're staying in the whole game. But Pinch's team just couldn't pull off any of the upsets. And so the question that I had going in A&M was, is this sustainable? Is this going to keep up? Well, I feel like they have quelled all of my fears. Tigers pull out a 10-point win in a game that was closer than you'd expect for the first half, but then that third quarter, which has usually been a detriment to this team, now use it in their advantage. And I mean, it starts...
I was like, what's happening?
It starts and ends with Grace Slaughter. Like, in that quarter, she scored 14 points as the Tigers outscored A&M 24-12. She finished the game with 29 points, nearly matching her season high of 31, which was actually her career high. Would have probably got there if she didn't kind of ease off in that fourth quarter. But just another phenomenal game for the sophomore. Shot over 50% from the field, 3 of 6 from deep, 8 of 8 from the line. Just proving herself to be that number one option for this team. And like, just the stats just continue to roll in for Slaughter. Every single game, it feels like she's getting better and better and better. Yeah. And she's only a sophomore, and she's putting up I think in the last couple of games, it's been like 20 plus points per game against SEC level opponents. Like, this girl is scary good. Like, I don't know if she's going to be all SEC this year, but you might as well, if she sticks around, pencil her in for next year. That's how good I think she can be.
Can't wait to see what a really good basketball coach does with her.
Special stuff. I think another point was the 3-ball got going again. I know something that Q talked about was making this team fun. They were a lot of fun on Sunday, and that's because they shucked it up. They made 10 threes and they shot 30 of them. So the efficiency isn't quite what you'd expect from this team. But when you put up 29 and ended up being 29 threes and you make 10 of them, you're going to score a lot of points that way. Obviously, Abby Schreck is your sharpshooter. She got back into double digits for the first time in what felt like ever, which was a point of emphasis for me. Great stuff. Delilah Brown just continues to be better and better as games go along. She found herself in double digits. So I think it was just a complete performance from the whole team. You'd obviously want a little more production from someone like an Ashton Judd or an Angie couldn't quite get it going in the post. But overall, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 performance, and you get the dub, which were rare this year. You feel a lot more encouraging heading down the stretch. Obviously, you got more difficult games ahead, but the team is playing up to the challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, I do think that they were probably helped a little bit by the fact that A&M only had 8 players available, and they had a season-ending injury to, I'm going to butcher her last name, uh, Kubali.
Koulibaly?
Yeah,
Koulibaly,
Kubali.
right?
I was like, ugh. Yeah, so I think that definitely probably helped their case a little bit, and it seemed like as A&M started to get into a little bit of foul trouble with only having 8 people available, that probably led to them playing perhaps a little bit more tentatively as to have enough players to remain in the game. But a win is a win. So, yeah. Quentin, do you have anything to say about?
Yeah, I mean, Dylan got most of it. I think when you look at the rest of the schedule, this was easily one of their 2 best opportunities for a win heading into the SEC tournament, other than Arkansas. And they got it. I mean, Dylan already mentioned Delilah Brown and Abby Schreck combining for 22 points off the bench. That was especially key in a game where Lanaya Randall and Anjingala Kalandi and Avery Kroenke, I know she's not a scorer at heart, but she went scoreless in 36 minutes, although she did contribute elsewhere. I mean, Ashton Judd, again, contributed elsewhere, had 8 rebounds, which is great. But she shot 2 of 13 from the field, and Nia Wilson shot 0 of 7 from the field. So a lot of players did not have very good games, and they needed other people to step up. Grace Slaughter obviously did so, but Brown and Schreck's contributions off the bench were really key. And so, yeah, they I think the Mississippi State game really changed this team. I really do. Coach Pinson has talked about it. Players have talked about it. They actually got a taste of winning.
Right.
They actually got an SEC win, and that probably did a lot, not just confidence-wise in that game or the next game, but the games going forward. I mean, Dylan already mentioned playing well against 2, or I guess 3 really good teams that I would not be surprised make it to the second weekend of March Madness. And so even though they didn't pick up the W in any of those games, they played really hard and they played those teams really close. I mean, Texas just beat South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like Texas is really good, and Mizzou was up late on the road in Austin.
Yeah.
And so I've been really impressed with this recent stretch of games. I'm glad for their sake they got another one, and I've been really encouraged by what this team can maybe accomplish going forward, even if it's not a ton. And like even so, Mizzou finishing at the bottom of a conference and winning the conference tournament has happened before. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's happened before. They did it in '94. They finished tied for last in the Big 8 and won the conference tournament. Ended up getting a 15 seed. Don't think that's going to happen this time around. But there have been a lot of positives, which is good.
I think if you can pull off that win against Arkansas, depending on the rest of the league, you jump yourself out of the very basement with Arkansas and Georgia, which helps a lot. So you're putting yourself right around that 12, 13, 14 seed line, which gives you a shot against a team like an Auburn or a Florida or even a Mississippi State. So, I mean, you're still playing on day 1 of the tournament. You aren't getting a bye or anything, but this Mizzou team has the potential to, if they keep playing like this, play themselves into a game on day 1 and maybe win a conference tournament game, which I can't remember the last time that's happened for Mizzou women's basketball. I know it's been a couple of years. So again, while it may only be like a first game against a team like Florida, who's not going to do much, the signs are still there. I've talked about it in a couple of pieces, but if you want to build a winning program, you don't do it by losing a lot. This isn't the pros. Like, So, I mean, every single win, every single
They don't get a draft pick out of it.
yeah, I don't think that's how it
Damn
works.
it.
But every single win and every single milestone that you can hit as a program just builds that confidence in your team and shows recruits, hey, we're out here trying to win and we're out here making an effort. And here's what you can do and improve upon if you come to this program. So I think pick up a couple, at least one, hopefully a couple more, win one game in the SEC tournament. You're putting yourself in better positions when next year rolls around, hopefully with the new coach.
Yeah. That's good. Up next, they don't have another game this week, right? They're off until Sunday.
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
they
Is that
continue
right?
this gauntlet with Oklahoma and Kentucky. Ole Miss on the road, which is by no means a gimme, but the way they've been playing, they should be in that game. Arkansas on the road is probably your best chance for a win to wrap up the year. And then home against Vanderbilt, that's another very good team. But again, the way the team has been playing, and it's at home, it's senior night, you at least to hope be hanging around in the fourth quarter to give yourself a chance to win. So I would at least say that the way they've been playing, they're probably not going to win the majority of these last 5 games, but they should be fun to watch. I don't see really any of these being 20-point blowouts. No matter how good these teams are, the way that Mizzou has been able to hang around against, like Q is saying, the best of the best in the Texas, the LSUs, etc.
How many more wins do you think that you get? Show of fingers.
I'm going to go optimistic, and I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say they find a way to get one upset win. We're going to get 2.
Quentin still says
Thanks for outing me as the pessimist, guys. Real cool.
What was yours, Matthew? You think
all right, glass half empty kind of guy. That's what I'm talking about.
And quick shameless plug.
0.
Quick shameless plug. I will be broadcasting the Oklahoma game. So tune in to KCOU at 8.1 FM if you want to hear my voice again.
Of course we want to hear your voice, Matthew. We always want to hear your voice. All right, so that wraps up women's basketball talk. Now on to softball. So softball had a really nice opening weekend. They went 4-1. But they were really they were close to either being 5-0 or 3-2, the way, depending upon the way you look at it, since they lost to Notre Dame on a walk-off 2-run home run. Yikes. And then they beat Iowa on Sunday. Sorry, Abigail.
Oh, that's okay. I'm a Cyclone fan. We're all good. I like
Okay. They beat the state of Iowa on Sunday on a walk-off wild pitch, which was kind of crazy. But obviously the big news here is the revenge against Duke. Like, yes. That was unbelievable. I cannot say that I saw that happening. I had penciled that in as a loss. And not only did they not lose, they killed them, which was insane. So there are some, before we get into the areas in which I think that I'm a bit concerned, though it is early. Really good starts this season from Stefania Brascato. She was named to the all-tournament team. Tiny Claire with her fast little legs. My dad was like, who's that little girl? She's so fast. She doesn't even have to hit it that far. She just runs. Tiny Claire had 2 triples in back-to-back games. Pretty awesome. Oh my God. Julia Crenshaw's off to a really good start. Madison Walker's off to a good start. Kara Daly, who we'd been hoping for 4 years now would get it going. She's hitting above 300. She hit a 3-run home run tonight in the UCF game. So there are some definite good things that are happening. Marissa McCann, I think, looks pretty good. I think Cece's looked good and looked stronger, and she doesn't quite look like she's tiring out. She's not looking fatigued when she pitches later into a game as much. So I think that that's a good sign. However, tonight I was worried that we were going to be running up to the recording and it was still going to be going on. And but Mizzou lost to UCF, who is 6-1, by the way, in walk-off fashion, with a shot up the middle with Taylor Pinnell pitching. So that is now 2 walk-offs that Taylor Pinnell has given up in a very young season. So that, of course, is not ideal. So I do have, even though it's early in the season, I do have some concerns about Mizzou's pitching, about their defense, about their situational hitting. What say you, other softball people or anyone?
Well, first off, I'd just like to say that those 3 areas, pretty important if you want to go far, right? Pretty important, especially in playoffs. So not ideal, although it is early in the season.
But it is early, yes.
It is early, but not ideal that those are the specific issues they're having. I think we saw this is a team that has WCWS potential. They could also end up not hosting a regional and losing in, the first couple of games. So the range of outcomes for this team is really wide just because of how young and inexperienced a lot of these players are. And, there's a lot up in the air, but they've got a lot of potential, and that's at least a good starting point.
Yeah.
Right. And in terms of the defense, so my parents were there all weekend, and I kept telling my dad I'm worried about the pitching. My dad kept saying, no, it's not the pitching. It's the defense behind them. Because he said none of those pitchers actually had problems pitching. It was the players behind them in the field. So, if you think about that, Quentin and I were talking about this yesterday when he came by my office, that Maddie Gallagher and Jenna Laird had played together since birth, basically. Maybe not that long, but they were the middle infielders and they had been playing together for their whole lives. And then now they're both gone, and you have one of 2 freshmen at second base. There's bound to be some growing pains there because it's been between Sophie Smith and Madison Updegrove, who I'm sure can both grow into being wonderful middle infielders, but they are young and they'll get there. And then Kara Daly, of course, is playing shortstop now. Now, I know that she played shortstop back in high school, but that was a long time ago. And she is now playing shortstop so that Madison Walker can play third, who is doing a very good job at third, I will add. But it is tonight, Madison Updegrove had 2 different situations in which she bobbled a ball, made an error, and it directly ended up leading to UCF runs. And they have to be better than that. And we know that Larissa preaches defense. That is their thing. They'll get it together. So they just need to get it together. I think last year they started off similarly, didn't they? With some, I know they practice indoors and stuff, and they probably even hadn't even been able to practice outside very much. So maybe it's just getting used to being outdoors and playing against other teams and not themselves. I don't know. But yeah, that it is a concern right now. The situational hitting, they strand pardon my French, a shit ton of people. They stranded 8 today. They stranded 9 against Iowa, 8 against Northwestern, 6 against Marshall. That's a lot of people. And the biggest culprit I found, at least through over the weekend, was Maya Dodge. She was stranding 3 people herself almost every single game. So not ideal. Not ideal. And I've said for a while that I think that the pitching, the thing that bothers me about the pitching is that there's not enough. And there's just not enough. Natalie Touche has not been around long enough. I know that they said on the broadcast today that coach believes in her so much and thinks that she's going to be fantastic, but we just haven't seen her enough to make that determination. And then like losing Lily Witten suddenly, suddenly to us at least. And then like, I don't think JC Cruze is suddenly just going to be in the lineup after being here for 4 years now of not being here. And then I just don't ever know what to expect when you moving from junior college like Donahue to the SEC ranks. So that is where I am with that. I'm sorry. I'm not really trying to be all negative Nancy about the team. Like I felt really good after this weekend. If they had lost against Iowa, I would have felt even worse. But then like after tonight, I was just like, just they came back and scored 6 unanswered runs. Like, you guys, you can't do that. Quentin, do you have any thoughts?
Dylan, you've been chomping at the bit. You go first, and then I'll say my spiel.
Okay.
I'll play a little angel on the shoulder this time around to Karen's devil, apparently. So I think
I know, like I was like, why am I being so negative? I can't.
I think that this team, like you've said, they're young. They're still growing. Like we talk about like Stefania, Claire, Abby. Those are sophomores. Like these
Tiny Claire. Her name is Tiny Claire.
Miss Tiny Claire Cahalan. These are sophomores who are still contributing, who are still learning. Claire was really only a starter towards the tail end of last year. Madison Walker wasn't really even a starter. Same with Stefania. She really was in and out of the lineup all year. So I think that this is a team that will grow. I would not be surprised at all if next week that what Larissa Anderson comes out and tells us, the media, is, hey, we're not peaking right now, which is good. Like, This is where you want the growing pains. Like, sure, some of these results, they might suck. They might not be fun. But, like, let's not forget that Notre Dame and UCF, while not softball powerhouses, they're still Power 5 programs, or Power 4, I guess. Either way.
Yeah, I'm not even really mad about those.
Like, they play such a tough schedule. Like, I was just looking through it. They play, like, no group of 5 teams, and the ones that they do are ultra competitive. Yeah. At that level. So I think that this team, it might be a grind. There might be a couple results where you're like, but I think that what the culture that Larissa's built here is just going to continue to make them stronger. And I mean, that's the game of sports. Like opponents will adjust to you and then you adjust back. It's really just how will Cece respond? How will Marissa McCann respond? How will Taylor Pennell especially respond? So I think that knowing what these players have in their arsenal and knowing how gifted, especially of a pitching coach, that LA is and some of the pitchers she's churned out, even going back to her time at Hofstra, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button just yet. This team still can absolutely be a top 16, maybe top 8 team if they play their cards right. So I think, again, some of these results, they're not fun, but the more they play in these tournaments, the more we get to see them against the high-level competitions against your teams like Duke, like Northwestern. They'll get chances to prove that, like this weekend against Florida State and Clemson. The more that you're going to be able to see some of those flashes and say, okay, this team has potential. Absolutely.
And I mean, there's a method to the madness. You take your bumps and scrapes and bruises now, because it makes you prepared when you have to face Texas and Oklahoma in just a couple months.
Which she has said all along, like that's part of the reason why they have this like insane schedule to start, because she wants them to be prepared. And with so many new people on the team, like you got to throw them in the fire right away. I know, like it's not like me to be so down. Like I'm always trying to find the positives. I think that game that just finished just kind of like threw me off a little bit. Like I was just like, oh no. Quentin, what
Yes.
say you?
Well, a few things. One, Dylan, to your point about Madison Walker, I think she's a little more ready than people might think. If I can recall correctly, she started last year as the starter
Mhm,
at first base. And then,
mhm.
like 12 games into the season, Mizzou was like, wait, holy shit, Abby Hay might be goated.
Right.
We should probably give her some more playing time. And so that happened. And then she only made sporadic appearances for the rest of the regular season. Then she comes
Mhm.
back in the postseason,
Yeah.
has the biggest hit of the entire postseason, and then almost one-upped herself against Duke. If only she got a little more of that softball. So I think she will be fine. As you guys already mentioned, she was really good at third
Mhm.
in the first tournament. So I think she will be fine. Also, I'm gonna put more stock into the Duke game than the Notre Dame and UCF
I
games.
know. I should have done that
Sorry,
too.
Karen. This isn't to like dunk on negative Nancy here, but I mean, Duke is probably still really good. Also, I might be biased because I don't like Duke. I don't like what they stand for. I don't like their university. I was raised an ACC fan. That wasn't a Duke fan, so I was conditioned to not like Duke. Even when I went to Duke
Me
basketball,
too.
I still didn't like Duke. Even when I met Coach K, still didn't like Duke. Even when one of their players, RJ Barrett, got drafted to my basketball team of choice, the New York Knicks, still didn't like Duke. Any day that Miami beat Duke was a great day. Thank you.
I'm with you. When I lived in North Carolina, I immediately had to pick my allegiance. I picked Carolina and Davidson.
Oh, nice. Go Cats. Um, what else was it? Oh, I'm from Maryland, and the Terps and Duke are
Oh
rivals.
yeah.
They freaking hate each other, and
Yeah,
it
they do.
sucks that they were broken up about 10 years ago in terms of conferences because I wanted to see more Maryland Duke. Anyway, that's my Duke spiel. Thank you for listening.
Well, with the Notre Dame game, Notre Dame in the preseason was at least ranked in at least one of the polls and was receiving votes. So like they aren't like some terrible team or anything like that. It just didn't and they didn't strand a whole bunch of base runners that game. Like they just had some problems hitting. Maybe it was a hangover from the Duke win the night
Yeah,
before. You
maybe.
know, like
Yeah,
they were just so excited and so amped up from that like you naturally come down off that high a little bit and
yeah,
then you're just like not as sharp.
yeah. And then the UCF one might be kind of weird. They were picked to finish seventh in the Big 12 preseason poll, if I read that correctly. But like softball is a very high variance game, and baseball too. And like, look, Arizona State just made the college football playoff this year. They were picked to finish dead last in the Big 12. So like, I don't know where UCF is going to end up. That loss
They're
will
6-1
age.
and they haven't played a bad schedule so far.
Yeah, that loss will age in one of two directions. That just needs time. And then the last thing I'll say before we move on, Karen, when I was in your office talking to you about the concerns that you and your parents raised about Mizzou, you had mentioned good pitching, but maybe not enough pitching, a potentially hit or miss offense, poor defensive fundamentals. Who did I tell you that reminded me of?
I forgot already.
The
That's
New York Yankees, a team that I watch many times a year and have
Yes, you
watched
did say
many
that.
times a year for many years. And those same problems, no matter the personnel, have plagued them every single year. And they show up the hardest in the biggest games. This year just happened to be the World
Didn't
Series.
they have a 5-0 lead too? Wasn't it? Didn't they have a 5-0 lead too?
Oh, I think
Matthew, I think that was still too soon.
I think you should listen.
I think that was still too soon.
Yes,
Quentin,
Matthew, they had a lead. And then poor defense caused that lead to go away. And they didn't have the lead anymore. was a rough World Series for me. I had a tough time, but that's like, look, that's like crying in a nice sports car. I was just happy that the Yankees finally made it back to the World Series, in which I remembered that they were there. Last time they made the World Series, I was 5 years old. Couldn't really comprehend a lot. At that point in my life. But anyway, a lot of Mizzou's problems mirrored the ones that I have been experiencing as a Yankee fan for several years. Also, they now, I guess, have a lefty pitcher that gives up a lot of walk-off home runs. I thought Aroldis Chapman had been out of my life for several years. I thought I was
Also
I thought I
bad
was done with
human.
that. But apparently not.
You want to talk to a
that
Cubs
still
fan
gets
about
fucked.
Aroldis Chapman there.
Sorry, I know I just woke up.
Bad
part of you
human.
guys.
Bad human. Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, bad human too. So yeah, not awesome, but I think I am more encouraged than discouraged. I will become more
Yeah.
discouraged if the same negative trends continue to pop up against different opponents, whether it's in these tournaments or the Mizzou Invitational. If we get to
expanding
SEC
the
play,
runners has always been. I was harping on that a bit because Dylan and I have a piece coming out in the morning that's kind of takeaways from the first weekend, and I went and looked up all that, and I found stuff that I'd written where Larissa had talked about like all their losses last year were to SEC teams were because they couldn't situationally hit and they were just hitting right at people and stranding people on base. So like seeing, like actually looking and being like, wow, they stranded 8 people, 9 people, 8
Yeah,
people. Like that's a lot of people.
that's the other thing I forgot to mention with the Yankees. They've left a billion runners on base. They have left a lot of runners on base in the postseason, and I've gotten too many angry texts from family members to ever forget it about how whenever there is a runner on first or first and second, double play. So aggravating. And I hope it doesn't happen to this Mizzou team.
I mean, I guess that, at least the other people got on base. So it's not like they have an anemic offense. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, so this weekend, back in Clearwater, they play another murderous row of competition. We won't talk about it because Dylan and I have a part about it in our piece that comes out tomorrow, so you should just read it. And we will move on to baseball.
Yay, baseball! You know what you guys should do with your snow day tomorrow?
What?
Read up on Mizzou baseball roster previews.
Somebody, the editor, has read.
Well, I'm just saying for those who
Everybody
haven't yet,
else. Yes.
I know the perfect snow day activity for you.
If you would like 2,000 words on relief pitchers,
that's the thing for you.
Crucial to your team. You also need the catchers. That comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, no, I'm really excited. They play Friday, Valentine's Day. That's all I need on Valentine's Day, some baseball, which I'm really excited about. They'll be in Puerto Rico with 4 games. We've got Penn State, UConn, Stetson, and UCF. Some really good competition before they open the season in Como in just over a week, about 2 weeks-ish. So, yeah.
I'm sure it'll be lovely weather, too.
Oh,
Taylor
that
Stadium.
lovely warm plus box that we have here at Taylor Stadium.
I said they put the baseball stadium in literally the windiest location in Colombia.
And they will start the season in winter still.
That too. But to add on to that, you get 3 Power 4 teams, and 2 of which made the tournament, one of which made a super regional. UConn was
both of them
regional, and they made kind of a Cinderella
run. Both UConn and UCF both lost to Florida State, one in the regional, one in the super regional. So just thought that was interesting. I mean, you talk about it with softball, this good competition early on and just how vital it is for the
Mhm.
rest of the season.
So, Barbara, that's 3 NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah.
In their first 4. And Penn State was not a bad team. They were 500 in the Big Ten, which gets some hate from people, but it is a solid conference. There is some good talent in the Big Ten. So do not underestimate them.
At least, guys, if the team's not very good this year, at least they'll be looking sharp in some new jerseys.
I have some thoughts.
Some fire
Those
jerseys.
white ones with the
Ah,
black script so big on it. Oh, love.
I'm a big fan of the script. I like too. They had the sailor tiger on the arm sleeves. It's
that
my
I
favorite.
like. That's the only thing I like. I'm sorry, but I do not like those jerseys. I do not.
I'm sorry, you are out.
That goes well on. I am a traditionalist when it comes to baseball jerseys, and Mizzou has had some very, very good-looking baseball jerseys in the past. They need to get back to that. To be honest with you, the Sailor Tiger hat is the only part of Mizzou's baseball's entire ensemble that I actually like.
I will say I'm not a big fan of some other jerseys that they have. I don't like if you go to buy like the fan jerseys, they've only got the button at the top. I hate that. I'm not a fan of that. I like the classic full button down, get some pinstripes and like just those classic uniforms I get, but I love the script. Maybe that's just because I'm a sucker for that. But otherwise, I mean, their jerseys, they don't really stick out too much. But I'm really excited about this one. So sorry, Matthew. I'm on the other side here.
I mean, I know I'm in the
love that one. Oh my
I know I'm
god.
in the minority, but I'm not a fan. And the script is way too big across the chest.
See, that's why I like it, because it's big.
That's why I like it too.
Because I think it looks weird when it's tiny.
You gotta find a medium. There's a happy medium to be had. I know maybe I'm just old man yells at the cloud, but I am not a fan of these.
Well, your opinion is heard,
one person's
even
opinion.
if it's wrong.
You're Quentin, how do you feel about the script tiger jersey?
So the script tiger, I have gone kind of back and forth on throughout several different sports, because I think just the standalone design is very clean. The only issue is that, at least for men's basketball, they started wearing that last season, and last season was obviously terrible. And so now I have associated the script tiger with losing. Now they did put it on the football helmets. Now, Coach Drink said the script tigers on the football helmets, I believe he was referring to that when he said it's like looking back at a mullet in college, which I'm going to assume is a bad thing in his eyes. I thought it was cool. I liked that better than the script Missouri. Too many letters for a script on a helmet. That was too many letters. Like Maryland football has Terps, a Terps script on the helmet. That's fine, because that's a small enough quantity of letters to be able to pop. Although I do miss their Maryland State flag helmets. I feel like they should have just had those forever. But alas, oh well. But yeah, I think it looks clean. I think it looks a little like one of my mom's like 4-year-old students could design that. Like I feel like they could. Like I feel like they could figure it out. It's simple, which I like.
Can you write in cursive, Quentin? Would you be able to?
Yes,
write?
I can mostly. I learned cursive in 3rd grade. I don't think they teach it in school anymore.
So then
not only is he joining the gymnastics team, but he's also creating the baseball jerseys.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere in Mizzou Athletics. Yeah. But Matthew, to your point, I do like the old baseball jerseys, like the Mizzou across the chest where it cuts off at like the first or the second Z. I think those are pretty cool. I don't think they're going to go back to Missouri across the chest because with the advent of Mizzou athletics being like an official thing and
Well,
Mizzou
and like
having
the
to-
athletic font.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would love if any team went back to just saying Missouri on the uniform because I think those jerseys were really cool across a bunch of different sports. But I think the Script Tiger baseball jerseys are clean. I would like the Sailor Tiger a little bit more in general if it wasn't not unique, because unfortunately
Right.
Mizzou is not the only school that uses it, which sucks because I bought the hat that I just switched out. I bought this very early in my freshman year of college before I realized that the Sailor Tiger was not
Everybody has the
Yeah.
not a
same.
Mizzou exclusive thing.
I was the same. I've done the same thing. I have one too, and I thought that I was like, "This is the best one." And then I was like,
I
"Oh."
also got an oval tiger hat. Now the oval tiger I like. I need a block M hat at some point
Yep.
because
That's the best.
I was
Mhm.
not familiar with the impact of the block M. It took me a while to come around on the block M, but I am on that side where it's cool, especially like not like the old school one, but the one where it's like I'm trying to like articulate what it looks like. It's not the standard block M, but it looks like it's like skinnier. It looks like it's fluffy almost.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, Karen might have it.
No, I'm actually grabbing one with a different thing.
Oh, never mind then. Well, I was at Rally House the other day because I was bored and I had time to kill. So I just walked around and was checking out their inventory. And they had a bunch of the hats with this like skinny, fluffy looking block M. And I was like,
I
oh,
know
that's
what you're
so
I know
cool.
what you're talking about. I wanted to introduce the NBA Paint account Mizzou
Oh,
Tiger
nice.
that I bought when they made the tournament. Yes,
That
Now
is a
that-
I love
nightmares.
NBA paint.
is
That's
a tiger.
Oh my gosh.
That is insulting to Truman, honestly.
Well, I love the NBA Paint account. It's so funny.
Crazy. I love it.
All right, well, fine, I guess. I can see everyone's point of view on the uniforms. I'm team
I'm with
Giant
you, Karen.
Script. Thank you. High five, Rory.
Quick
Boo,
fun
Matthew.
fact. Do you know what college had the original Sailor Tiger logo?
Auburn. LSU.
LSU.
I was going to say LSU.
Now, you'll have to double check me on this, but if I remember correctly, Occidental College.
Oh, get the hell out of here. Come on.
Matthew, how do you know these facts?
That was my
I
next
swear
guess.
every week I
I
learned
just
something
came
new.
across it a while ago.
Sounds
In
like
your random research about Sailor Tiger
Scrolling.
logos. Interesting. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Can't wait to hear from you next week on how their season has started out. Yay. Yay, Diamond Sports. Abigail, it's time for you.
Guys,
Track
There's just
is
always
good.
good news in track and field, and it's such a great season. So if you're not starting to follow right now. I don't really have an opinion on jerseys because they kind of cycle through several different ones. I'm not a Block M person because to me it looks like Michigan. I think it's because I grew up in the Big Ten. I know. The reaction is so negative. So I'm sorry, team, but that's how I feel. Anyway, Karen left. Track and
Karen's
field-
leaving in protest.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I get it. I just grew up in the Big Ten, so the Block M still looks like Michigan to me. Anywho, track and field off to a fantastic start. The Missouri Invitational was quieter. That was their meet this Friday. I do like the pop, but yeah, Karen is showing us some pin
Quentin.
threaded art of something.
I like that logo. I think
Yeah,
that
that's
one's
cool.
nice.
I like the pop. Okay.
Sorry.
So Missouri Invitational was this Friday. It was a little bit quieter. They didn't run nearly as many of their runners, but all of their jumps team kind of took a break after the Dr. Rick McGuire, which I'll get to in a second, because there was a newer development because of that outcome. However, because it was quieter and smaller teams, more of their D3 regional opponents, I got to kind of listen in on some of the coaches giving more feedback. And it was cool because I had interviewed Sam Inez. He now currently holds the men's weight throw record. And I got to watch him mentor the shot put men. So Skylar Coffey and Aiden Camp. It was cool. Clayton Camp, Sam Albert, and then Cade Decker, I believe, competed unattached. And it was cool because after every single attempt, he was showing them the video, he was giving them adjustments, and he's not a coach, he's a senior there. And I really I learned from watching him teach the athletes kind of his adjustments and idea. And also, I think that men's weight throw and men's and women's shot put are one of the strangest events to watch them score, because you are simply trusting that people have incredibly precise spatial awareness and can watch where the weight throw or the shot put hits the ground and just eyeball it and go and mark it. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it. Similarly with jumps, but there's literally an indent in the sand versus I don't know how they just know, because I'm always clocking it. I'm like, oh, that's a PR. And then it absolutely was not a PR. It was like a half meter off. I have no spatial awareness. I think in words, not pictures. So I'm very impressed by that. That was my little observation of the day. Every time I try to learn something new about a new event. Then I went over to pole vault. Anna Vidril is the transfer from Kansas, and she set a Missouri season best. And it was really cool watching her compete because she had the final height all to herself. So she got to take her time and go through the 3 attempts. And it was really interesting listening to her talk to her coach who was on the phone, talking about making adjustments in the approach and in the speed of the approach, how far she ran and how aggressive she was. And then I also learned that there are different pole vault pole lengths. And I'm very curious as to when you might make adjustments when you use a certain pole vault, because I know that she switched out her poles in between her second and third attempt when she was trying to clear 4 meters. So I'm definitely want to interview her and just kind of learn more about that event. It's the one that is the most acrobatic and so confusing to me as to how you actually do it. I understand how you score it now. I'm learning, but how you make your body do that thing is very impressive. Also, the Dr. Rick McGuire Invitational, when I watched the high jumpers, it was super cool watching them warm up because they are gymnasts. They do back bends onto the cushion that they fall onto just to warm up. And it's crazy seeing that happen in slow motion because you have more respect for the acrobatic it takes in order to clear the height. So on that note, I got to interview Coach Shamav this weekend. He is such a fantastic guy to speak with. He's so kind, so friendly. And if you want to talk about a coach who sees a picture that is larger than college athletics, larger than results, more meaningful than splits or records or honors, that's Coach Shamav. He is so funny because the big news out of track and field this weekend was that Jonathan Sarimi, who Matthew mentioned at the top of the show, brand new triple jumper for Missouri, on his Missouri debut, set a triple jump in his 6th and final attempt that is top in D1 college right now. So he is the best Division I men's triple jumper in college on his Missouri debut. And if you speak to Coach Shamav, he's like, yeah, he kind of expected that. And because of his efforts, he received votes for the Bowerman watch list, which is essentially the track and field Heisman equivalent. And it is so coveted. Only 3 Tigers have ever even received votes, that being Carissa Schweizer and Kirsten Peoples. And so I asked Coach Shamav about that and, was like, this is a pretty cool honor. What were you thinking? And his exact response was, quote, "That's okay, whatever. That doesn't really bring me any emotions or like excitement to me."
That's so Joe Mazzulla coded. Are you kidding me? That's awesome.
It was so casual. And it wasn't that he does not care for Jonathan. His compassion and care for his athletes is so evident in his voice. It's just that the results are not the reason that they're doing it. And the outcomes are simply byproducts of the training that they are pouring in. And the fact that he was only the 3rd person in general and only triple jumper on the list this season to even receive votes really means nothing to Coach Shamav. He's like, that's okay. And then further, I thought it was just funny how externally we can get so excited to things that maybe the athletes on the internal locker room don't care about. Jonathan is from Paris, France, and his coach was saying, yeah, he didn't even know what the award was. I had to explain to him why this was such a big deal. So I just thought that story was so funny. Here I was all prepped, ready, excited. And then I was like, all right, fair. Yeah, I get it. Like that is not why he is in the sport. And then similarly, Christy Perez-Sneeman set a PR and school record in the women's high jump, a record that coach referred to as a unicorn. It's something that they could see and knew it was there, but hadn't yet captured. And I asked him about that record because I watched the moment that she broke the school record and went over. She was so excited. They shared a moment. Like, it was clear that that was and had meant something to him. And he goes, yeah, well, I expected it. He's like, to be honest with you, Abigail, I expected it the competition the prior week. It just didn't happen yet. And it's just very like refreshingly casual. It's like talking to your dad after a big game. Like, he's not going to get too high on the highs. He's not going to get too low on the lows because he sees the big picture and he cares about the athletes more than what their results show in competition.
That's cool. So what's next for track and field?
Yes, this weekend they go to Arkansas and compete at the Tyson Invitational, which is important because they've competed there last year at SEC Indoors. It's a really, really nice track. It was considered the best track in the SEC by most people's accounts. And then they're knocking on the door of SECs. They'll compete at the Tyson Invitational, and then SEC Indoor Championships are at College Station the following week.
Nice. Thank you. I always love to hear about the track updates. I'm becoming quite the... I used to just watch just for F&E, but
I
now
know,
I'm
it's fun.
really into it because of you, Abigail. So
Oh.
thank you for piquing my track interest. And I know that Matthew also feels the same way.
It helps when they're so good too. I mean, you're
I
watching
know.
people who could be competing for, they have 4 athletes right now who are on All-American watch, which would be top 8 nationally in their events, which is incredible.
That's cool. And I think
the men's team
I
is
saw
ranked
today
20th.
the men's are ranked number 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the team rankings honestly don't mean anything from my understanding. Don't quote me on this, but as far as especially like NCAA indoors, you have to qualify individually for your event.
Yeah.
So the team rankings are more reflective of the power and development of the individuals on your team. As far as Missouri as of itself, it probably doesn't mean anything because they're probably not going to be able to qualify enough individuals to earn enough points to be able to beat like an Arkansas, because 8, I believe, of the other SEC men's teams are also ranked in the top 25. So SEC indoors is still going to be incredibly competitive. It doesn't not mean anything. It just is more of like a calculation of how many individuals you have who are also ranked nationally. But I don't think they're going to be competitive in the sense of a team at SEC indoors.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But we'll see. You never know.
It's a nice, it's just a nice thing to be like, oh, it's another Mizzou team ranked in the top 25. Thank you, Abigail. Moving on. Rory, tennis, and men's golf.
Tennis. Get out the brooms, guys. We're walking away with 2 sweeps. Woo! Only lost this weekend came to Minnesota when they lost 5-2. But they did sweep St. Thomas and Colorado State. This is just huge for them. They're 5-1. Yeah, exactly.
I was waiting for someone to actually go get a broom.
They are 5-1 on the season. 3 of those wins are clean sweeps. Last year at this point, they were 0-5. So just a huge turnaround for them. They're back in Columbia this weekend with huge potential. It went away. Missouri State and Missouri State and SEMO are this Saturday, and then they'll still be home the weekend after that for Lindenwood and Western Illinois. They should be able to continue the track that they're on, which is complete, again, opposite from last year. So really great results for them. That's for doubles and singles too. Just the teamwork's there, the talent is there, and I'm really excited to see how this season shakes out for them, especially as they enter into conference play in just about 2 weeks. Their first 2 opponents will be Vanderbilt and Alabama there. Both of those teams are ranked. And then if we get into some golf, men's golf has started. Women's golf has not. Women's golf does not start for another 2 weeks. They will be at the Westbrook Invite hosted by Wisconsin, but it will be taking place in Arizona. will not be playing golf in Wisconsin at the end of February. But shifting to men's golf as a team, the result wasn't exactly what they wanted. They finished in 13th out of 14 teams at the National Invitational Tournament, which was in Arizona, hosted by Arizona. But individually, there were still some great performances. Trent Merrill and Virgilio Paz both finished in the top 40. And then Trent Merrill had a career best score of 7 under par at 209. So right out the gate for him to do that is huge. We spoke about it last year. Their season was kind of iffy, but have a little bit of a good stretch, finish in the individual kind of top of the standings, but as a team would really fluctuate. They also, like the tennis team, have the opportunity to have a different record this year than they did last year, which is also something that applies to the women's team. So I'm really excited to see how their seasons shake out. Again, women's golf will be in Arizona in 2 weeks, and the men will be in Hawaii in 2 days. I want to go to Hawaii. Take me with you.
I am really excited to see how women's golf did, especially because you did such a good job covering them in the fall, and they seemed like they were progressing really well.
They were.
So
They
it'll
shot
be
up
really
in the
interesting
rankings.
to see how they do now
Mhm.
that they'll be back in a few
I'm
weeks.
very excited. Very, very excited.
Thank you. We'll
Of
come back
course.
to you in a moment. Matthew, wrestling.
Yes.
There's no need to talk about those god awful
Bit of a
blowouts
break
a few
here.
weeks ago, but I'm hoping that you have maybe some injury updates and something about the next meet or two.
Yep. So, a bit of a break here for Mizzou wrestling between the Oklahoma trip, which will henceforth be unmentioned, and the season finale against Iowa State. Keegan O'Toole, Colton Hawks, arguably Mizzou's 2 best wrestlers this year, have been out for a little while now, but both are expected to return against Iowa State. So Mizzou should have the great majority of its starters back. You got Seth Nitzel and Cam Steed back recently, as well as Logan Joffrey. So you have your starters at 133
Bless you, Abigail.
through, I believe, actually, you have your starters from 133 all the way up to heavyweight now,
Nice.
which is going to be huge, with the exception of 197. Rocky Elam is out. So you have 8 starters now that are going to be in the lineup, and you are hoping to build some momentum heading into the Big 12 championships. That Iowa State matchup is going to be here in Columbia at the Hearns Center. And that's going to be, like I said, the season finale, February 22nd. And then after that, March 8th to March 9th, you're going to have the Big 12 championship. And the Big 12 is what is going to determine how many Mizzou wrestlers get into the NCAA championships.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, hopefully they do okay against Iowa State since they'll have the team back, basically.
I'm expecting a more competitive match because, again, all due respect to the guys they've been putting out there at 174, 184, but given the toughness of this Big 12 schedule, you've pretty much been penciling those in as losses every single time, right? And that really hurts you because 2 losses can be anywhere from 6 to 12 points. So having a situation where you pretty much know you're going to have 6 to 12 points of a deficit each, match, and you have to make that up, that's really tough. Especially for this team where a lot of the wins aren't necessarily coming with bonus points this year. So I think that getting these 2 wrestlers back will have a massive impact, and you will see that against Iowa State. It'll be much more competitive. It's senior day. They always get a big crowd out for Iowa State. There's a Keegan O'Toole bobblehead, some of which will be autographed by Keegan O'Toole.
I need one. I collect bobbleheads if you've ever seen them on my desk in the office.
Yep.
I need one. Okay. Cool. I'm excited to see maybe some better Mizzou wrestling in our future. It makes it a whole lot more fun, I'm sure, for you to talk about and write about when you're not just like, and all of everyone's hurt and it was bad. Not that you'd ever write that, but the overlying thought is everyone's hurt and it's bad.
Yeah. And I mean, this has, again, been a recurring theme almost from the start of the season, right? Rocky Elam beginning the year injured, and okay, when is he going to come back? When is he going to come back? Turns out he can't. But like, again, we've just been talking about this for so long. I remember I was in Pittsburgh covering volleyball. I was at a Polish market / deli when I found out that Noah Certain was medically retired. So that tells you just how long and how much of an issue it's been for the Tigers this year. But they finally seem to be getting themselves together and getting healthy as they're heading towards the Big 12 championships, which people have said the regular season doesn't matter, obviously, but it really doesn't matter that much. What really matters is how you do at Big 12, because that is what determines if you make it to the NCAA championships.
It's true. It's true. Side note on wrestling, John Anderson came, my bestie, John Anderson, came by my office the other day and brought me an autographed piece of paper for Jaden Cox.
Oh, okay.
Which is now my second autograph that I have of Jaden Cox, because I have another one I have a Mizzou wrestling poster that I'm actually staring at right now because it's in my Mizzou themed home office from when he took online classes through Mizzou Online, and he came in to take one of his exams, and I had the schedule poster out and I got him to sign it. So now I have two things with his signature on it. And I was like, oh, cool. Mr. Talented, Jaden Cox. Super exciting.
One of two Mizzou Olympic wrestlers.
Yes.
Medaled even in Rio.
Yeah. Yeah.
While he was still in college, which is insane.
Also, like, the most talented human ever. Like, he's so good at everything. Singing, musical instruments. He can speak multiple languages. He's a good wrestler. Like, what can't Jaden Cox do?
I raise you, Juju Stevens.
Whatever.
Well,
All
she
right.
didn't go to Mizzou, so she's got a disadvantage.
She didn't go to Mizzou. Yeah.
Mama Dembele. She can speak.
Juju
That's
was
true.
just
Mama Dembele, also wicked smart.
Juju was just
5 bazillion languages.
He was an understudy on Broadway, IT wizard, fantastic piano player.
I was
Also
gonna say
one baseball player. Just throwing that out there. Not to diminish Jaden Cox, but
It
Juju
sounds
was
like
great.
you're.
class.
It sounds like you're diminishing Mizzou legend Jaden Cox.
Just wanted to throw another hat in the ring. That's all.
Wait, you said Juju Stevens?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is in
he
Mizzou baseball?
transferred. He plays for, I think he's
Okay.
in Georgia Southern now.
Yep, you're
But
correct.
He was in a theater class with Quentin and I. It was
Which
like, yeah,
is,
I was on Broadway. And let me just
actually
play the
have-
piano really
Actually-
quick.
I think we actually have that information in our Mizzou baseball preview. You'll just have to wait for that article. My brain hurts Juju Watkins. So
Oh no, not quite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who I was thinking of at first too.
Yeah,
I was
USC is
like,
a
the
little far
USC
away.
basketball player.
Wait, we're not
I
talking
mean,
about
maybe.
Juju Smith-Schuster? What?
That's not
Everybody's
an
name
Olympic
is
sport,
Juju.
Dylan.
When I
Oh.
actually think about that all the time. So it's really funny you said that.
All right, moving on. Gymnastics. Just a couple updates from me. The result of the Mizzou, Illinois meet in Champaign was great on Sunday. One of several Mizzou women's sports that got big wins. Not all the teams in the Show Me State, unfortunately, were victorious, but that's not a podcast for. We don't talk about that on this podcast. But anyway, gymnastics wise. So for I guess this is now for the first of 2 consecutive weeks because they faced Illinois this past weekend, and then they will face them again on Friday at the Loot of the Zoo meet. Mizzou took on Illinois, and it was a really good performance. They tied their season high score against that they had also gotten against Kentucky, which is a 197-2. Even better than that is that it is considered an away score. So it's when they start figuring out the national qualifying scores, having that 197.2 away score is going to be really helpful for them. They also had season high scores on bars and floor, and their second highest score on beam. The only thing that was very bad was vault. Vault squad had the Sunday scaries. They scored under 49. They scored 48,975, which is also what they scored in week 1 and week 2. So that is obviously not what we want. Kaya was held out of the lineup, either with illness or injury, something like that. I don't know. She didn't even make the trip to St. Louis. I had reached out to her. She said she thought that she would be back this weekend. So hopefully whatever it is not that bad, because I would begin to think that that vault lineup was cursed if yet another vaulter was out. So vaulting, not great. Not great. All the other things, awesome. The Tigers are currently ranked 5th in the SEC, right behind Kentucky. And if you had read my preview, I was starting to get a little concerned about after Friday, the SEC teams that are right behind Mizzou. So that would be Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, maybe just those 3. Georgia, Alabama, and Arkansas. Yeah. They were starting to gain on Mizzou, and it was getting uncomfortably close. So I was like, oh, they need to have a good meet on Sunday to kind of pull away a little bit. And that's exactly what they did. So they're still gaining on them a bit, but Mizzou has gotten in front of them a little bit more. And they face Alabama this weekend, is one of the other teams in the Zoo to the Lou invite. This damn weather better hold up so I can be there. Because I will have a fit, and I will yell at people and tell them that they should never have this meet again. Should it be canceled again? Nate Salzman and I were talking about this the other day, and that it's a cool idea because it's a podium meet. So like everything's up higher. And you need to get used to performing on that floor because it's springier, and it's just different than how you that's the type of floor they'll see at SECs and regionals, and you have to get used to performing with more spring underneath you than you normally have in a regular meet. So it's a big deal to have this like podium meet. However, Nate and I both hate the fact that it means that they lose like a traditional home meet. So like that home Kentucky meet was awesome. There were a bunch of people there. The crowd was into it. But then now it's going to be like mid-March before we're back home again. And so it just kind of takes the fun away. And so we really just wish that they would get rid of this meet or move it to March when maybe the weather won't necessarily have such an impact. I don't know. So cross your fingers that I make it there this time. Yep, that's all I have to say about gymnastics. Good stuff. Oh, and Amari Celestine, amazing. She continues to kill it in everything that she does. Back to Rory, swim and dive.
I'll be quick. I interviewed Coach Grievers the other day to get his thoughts right before the swim and dive team heads off to SEC championship. I have great stuff from him. He is awesome to talk to, not only just about the team in general, but just everything that goes into the training, everything that goes into the meets, the athletes.
Such a good dude.
He is. He implemented zoo style for them. I mean, just so much he's got going on. He clearly just has such a passion for this. And I'm really excited to get that out to you guys shortly. And you can then read everything he had to say.
Yay! Thank you. And then we will finish the show with a volleyball update, because since the last time we talked, Mizzou has gotten another new addition, and another player is beginning her pro career.
Yeah, let's start off with that. Naomi Franco, the fourth senior from Mizzou to turn pro, now the fifth player, thank you, of the Dawn Saloon era to be a professional. And this one, a little bit of a surprise, to be honest with you. She was more of a role player at Mizzou, was in that 6-2 formation that they would run every once in a while, but she was really good in that, really good role player, had a pretty good NCAA tournament run there, and she ends up signing with a power, one of the best teams in the Hungarian Extraliga. This is the toughest name I've had to pronounce yet. Gent Benedikt Roplavda Academia, located in Balatonfüred, Hungary.
Wow.
Let's go.
I have no idea if that was right or not. That
Sounded
is a
right.
best guess.
Hey, my dresser just started floating. Thanks, Matt.
So there you go. And the big transfer news, Mizzou. Look, it's late in the year, so y'all aren't thinking about Mizzou transfer news right now. You should. This is big. Let me tell you, this is big. Mizzou signing USC middle blocker Tyra Ariel. USC, pretty good at volleyball, right? Not necessarily one of the elite of the sport, but consistently a good team. She was a 2-year starter, led the Trojans in blocks each of the past 2 seasons, had at least 140 kills, at least 100 total blocks back-to-back years. This year, 144 kills, 340 hitting percentage, 114 total blocks. She was 19th in the Big Ten in blocks this year, 10th in the Pac-12 in blocks the year before. This is a player who will provide offense that is so key for middles to be effective on offense for this team. She fits that like a glove. She provides a huge upgrade in blocking. Both Tigers starters, Colleen Finney, Reagan Haith, neither of them ended up totaling over 100 total blocks on the season. No Mizzou player had over 100 total blocks. Mizzou has brought in 2 players now that have had over 100 total blocks for at least the past season, if not the past 2. And Trinity Luck, the SLU transfer as well. So this team took maybe its single largest weakness at the end of last year and have made it into a strength.
That's really awesome.
This is a team that has reloaded. This is a team that I would argue has second weekend, not even potential, possibly expectations entering the year, with the possibility for more.
Hear that.
This is going to be a very good team, a team that could be even better than this year's. And there are some questions. There are undoubtedly some questions, one of which is the health of Reagan Haith.
Yeah.
Because we confirmed per a Mizzou team spokesperson that she ended up having a operation to fix an injury that she had during the NCAA tournament. We don't know exactly how her recovery is progressing, but the team is encouraged, is what we were told. So if you have Reagan Haith, Tyra Ariel, Trinity Luckett as your 3 middle blockers, that is a massive upgrade. And that's no disrespect to Colleen Finney and Reagan Haith, because they were fantastic last year. But you have 3 SEC starting level middle blockers.
Yeah.
That's huge. That is absolutely huge for this team. They've also gotten taller overall at the middle position which again is really important for when they're going up against some of those elite teams that have elite height.
Mm-hmm.
I said this team is returning one of the best liberos in the nation, the best libero in the SEC for 2 years running. They're returning maybe the best setter in the SEC next year. They got an All-American outside hitter. You have returning starter in Janet Demery. You have a returning starter in Reagan Haight. You have a former number 3 overall recruit in the nation entering her sophomore year who showed flashes of promise as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have these 2 middle transfers. This team is going to be very good. It's going to be very talented, very deep again. And they have the potential to, again, compete at the top of the SEC in a year where I think the SEC could be the best conference in the country.
That's really cool to hear. It will be interesting to see how their whole roster situation works out because they keep adding more people.
3 over right now.
And it doesn't appear that anyone's leaving.
Yeah.
So not entirely sure how that's going to work out, but we'll find out.
And one more thing before we get out, a chance to see a Pro Tiger in the state of Missouri, LOVB League One Volleyball, having their midseason tournament in Kansas City. I will be there Friday, Saturday, covering it for KCOU. Going to have some live radio shows. Really excited about that. But Emily Thader, legend in the program, Mizzou middle blocker, top 5 in blocks in program history, playing for League One Omaha. So you can see a Pro Tiger in this state this weekend.
Do they televise those?
I believe they do. Yeah, I think they're going to be on ESPN Plus.
Okay.
Some of them may actually be on regular ESPN.
I'll have to check it out. In between my softball viewings, since the softball games this weekend will all be on major networks. We got some ESPN2 games coming, guys.
Oh yeah.
No more Game Changer app. I mean, they tried. It was so hard to follow along. That's how I watched the game. So the Duke game, I started watching it at home and then was like, I have to leave for the basketball game. So I have it up on my phone and I'm waiting there for the shuttle with the game on, on my phone, just standing there like, oh God, like, watching it, get to my seat, still just sitting there on my phone, like not paying attention to anything around me, trying to watch the end of this game. These people are probably like, what is this girl doing?
I was like, did Claire Cahalan just run through a wall? I couldn't really see. And then sure enough, she actually did run through a wall, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, the setup of the cameras are kind of difficult for the Game Changer thing. So the ball would go into the outfield and you'd be like, where is it? Where is it? But, oh well. All right, so we're done. We didn't do that bad on time. I kind of derailed the conversation about the baseball uniform. Sorry about that. Team script. So one last thing before we get out of here, please head to Rockham Nation and support the work of so many student journalists and some really amazing other writers as well. We're still talking about football over there. We still got so much basketball stuff going on. Also, please subscribe to this podcast. Please leave a 5-star review. Please leave some comments would be nice. Please join our subscription service, Rockham.plus. It still is only $5 a month. And then you can follow us on all the social medias, and you can just read on the screen there what those are. You should follow us already at this point. So thank you for joining us. Oh my God, I just
You almost got through it. You almost got through the entire episode. You were so close.
Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time. LIC!
See you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.